Welcome, everyone. Good morning to those who are gathered here in the sanctuary, to all who are joining online today. We begin this morning with a musical prelude by Scott DeVoe. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Charlottesville. My name is Lauren Duran. My pronouns are she, her. And I am pleased to be leading worship this morning with Reverend Tim Timerson and music director Scott DeVoe. This sanctuary was built over 70 years ago on the homeland of the Monacan people and was once cared for by enslaved people from Africa and their descendants. We honor all who have dwelt here and in our congregation and whose lives led to this moment of our gathering. I invite us to take a moment to greet others. Those online may unmute, and those here in the sanctuary or social hall are welcome to greet your neighbors, especially those you may not know. We offer a special welcome to newcomers and invite you to join us after the service in the social hall. Please feel free to take one of our red coffee mugs and sit at the newcomer table, which will have a red tablecloth. And UUCville members and friends are reminded to offer a warm welcome to anyone with a red coffee mug. There's a live stream of the service in the social hall, and while everyone is welcome here in the sanctuary, the social hall can be a good option if you need a roomier space. Many thanks to all the folks helping us share worship both here and online. Our greeters, ushers, hospitality, and altar decorating teams, and special thanks to our AV Tech team led by Rachel Buckland and Nash Ford. And now we have greetings from board member Reverend Leah.
Good morning, everyone. You might be surprised to see me standing up here as a member of the board and offering greetings. Yeah? Yeah. Well, some of you may not realize that actually Reverend Tim and I are both ex officio members of the board. So that means that we get to go to all of the board meetings and the executive board meetings, but we don't get to vote. It's okay. We actually really enjoy the board meetings and feel like it's a very important part of our ministry to be involved in the leadership of our congregation and where the board is taking us. And I wanted to make sure that you all know that even though it's summer and many of us are taking breaks or stepping away from work Your board is not. Your board continues to meet through the whole church year, and they will be meeting in July and continuing to do the important work of leading us forward together. And I was reflecting with Reverend Tim about one of the things that so impresses me about our current board, and that is their commitment to our congregation's strategic plan. Now, how many of you usually find a strategic plan something that's so riveting that you just keep it in front of you all the time? Yep. So we want to talk to you about future board service that since you raised your hand, but actually I just am so impressed by how our board is really living into our strategic plan. And it's not some report that's gathering dust on a shelf, but it is something that board members constantly reflect back and say, okay, before we make this decision, how is it connected to our strategic plan? And I just think that's beautiful. And it's really helping us be who we want to be as a congregation, both for ourselves, but also in the wider world. So know that over the summer, your board is continuing to hold on to the work of our congregation. And we all look forward to working with you again in the start of the new church year, which will happen in September. But good work is going on even now. Welcome to church.
Here are this morning's announcements. We are coming up on the end of our fiscal year, and all 2024-2025 pledge payments are due tomorrow, Monday, June 30th. If you have questions about your remaining balance or anything else related to your 24-25 pledge, please email pledgeminder@uucharlottesville.org. As always, thank you so much for your support. The Charlottesville Sister Cities Commission is hosting a delegation of visitors from our sister city in France, Bescon, and these guests need some hospitality for a week. The guests visiting will be part of a collaboration with local churches in the Charlottesville and Bescon to join together for a gospel choir exchange, ending with a choral concert showing the strength of our partnership with singers from both Charlottesville and Bescon. The singers will arrive Wednesday, July 16th and depart the morning of Wednesday, July 23rd. If you would consider hosting a singer to facilitate the successful gospel choir exchange between our cities, please reach out to Megan Sharp, Associate Minister for Music at University Baptist Church. You can contact Megan directly at megan@universitybaptist.org. There will be a listening circle here in the sanctuary beginning at 12:30 with Reverends Leah and Tim about events that took place at UVA this week. All are welcome. A reminder that Reverends Tim and Leah will be on vacation during the month of July. The pulpit will be filled by talented guest speakers, including Reverend Susan Carlson, Scott DeVoe, Reverend Annie Forrester, and Angela Orba. Please be sure to join us on Sunday mornings in person here on Rugby Road or online. And Reverend Tim has an announcement.
Yes. Thank you, Lauren. This is Lauren's first Sunday as a worship leader. So my announcement, which those of you who received the church emails got this a few days ago, is that the fabulous Rachel Buckland is leaving us as our AV tech. And so this will be Rachel's last Sunday will be in a couple Sundays from today, but this will be my last chance to be here when Rachel is here. So I just wanted to say to Rachel, wow, you have just been an amazing part, not just an amazing staff member, you've been part of this church family and this church community. We love you so much, and we are going to miss you. And you all have, I don't know that you can even grasp all that Rachel brings to worship on Sunday mornings. She's so creative. She doesn't just know how to press all the buttons and turn them, and knows when to mute my microphone, which is often. But she's so creative with the slides and everything. So Rachel's been here for 3 years. Yeah. So, and she's been really the heart and soul of all of our dual platform worship and everything. So Rachel, thank you so much for all of your great work here, and we are certainly going to miss you. I'll also mention that Nash Ford, who is our new office assistant, is going to be taking over for Rachel. And you can't see Nash there behind, there's Nash peeking out behind the monitor. Hi, Nash. And so give Nash lots of encouraging words. It's a job that Nash will do very well at, but it's a lot at first. There's like 20 things going on at once, and Rachel makes it look easy every Sunday. So Nash, thank you so much for your interest in taking on this responsibility, and we are so glad that you are with us as well. So Lauren and I would like to begin our service this morning with this call to worship from Reverend Richard Gilbert. He says, "Sit easy and be at rest.
Be silent, be still, be serene.
Put away all the plans to be made, the things to be done, the victories to be won.
Breathe deeply. Feel your body recover its resilience, your mind its bearings, your spirit its strength.
Sit easy, friends. Sit easy as we worship and rest together."
I now invite Reverend Leah to light our flaming chalice. Will you please join me in saying our chalice lighting words?
We
gather this hour as people of faith with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together. And then we will also be doing the hand motions. We light this chalice to celebrate Unitarian Universalism. This is the church of the open mind. This is the church of the helping hands. This is the church of the loving heart. Please rise in body or spirit and join us in singing hymn number 347, Gather the Spirit. The words will be on the screen.
You may be seated. So before we move into the remainder of today's service, I want to say a word about what happened at UVA on Friday with the resignation of UVA President Jim Ryan. Now, I have to say, I don't know President Ryan, but I've had kind of mixed feelings about his leadership. I was especially disappointed and outraged by the decision last spring to use pepper spray on peaceful student protesters, which I witnessed firsthand. And there have been other recent decisions. I'm not at all clear what role he played in them, things like restricting gender-affirming health care for minors that have also been very harmful. But while President Ryan has been party to some poor decisions and outcomes, I do know from my own relationship with UVA that he has stood behind the university's efforts to promote diversity and inclusion and to offer support to historically marginalized communities of students, including Black, Indigenous, LGBTQ, Latinx, Asian American, and students who are first in their family to attend college. I will say that that kind of support has been pretty much non-existent at UVA for most of its long history. And Jim Ryan's commitment to making UVA more welcoming and inclusive, it was that commitment, I believe, that has led the Trump administration to characterize him as being woke and forcing him to resign. Now, I know there are different opinions in the UVA community about President Ryan's decision to step down, and our own Frank Duke, sitting right over there, made some very compelling comments in a social media post criticizing that decision, rather than and expressing disappointment that President Ryan didn't stick around and fight. I agree with much of what Frank had to say, but I myself am focusing much of my attention on the actions of the administration that forced President Ryan out. And I would also add the US Supreme Court decisions late last week and the threat they pose to the future of democracy and the rule of law. Leaders and institutions who don't bow down to the administration and don't toe I'm just going to say it, a white supremacist ideological line are being coerced and punished, and the safeguards protecting institutions and individuals from arbitrary and unaccountable rule are being systematically dismantled. A couple of weekends ago, many of us took part in the No Kings protest here in Charlottesville, joining millions of others across the country. While those protests certainly demonstrated how many people are opposed to the direction this country is heading in, I'm sorry to say it's becoming more and more clear that the threat we face is much more dire than I ever imagined. It's not monarchy. It's not even a mild autocracy. Feels to me like we're heading, and I know this may sound exaggerated to some of you, but I don't think it is. Feels like we're heading towards totalitarian dictatorship, aiming to dominate and control every institution and every facet of our lives. And that threat includes, I fear, religious institutions like this one. In fact, I'm sure many of you did not hear about this, but some time ago, our own Unitarian Universalist Association was one of about 200 religious and secular nonprofit organizations that recently received a letter from a House committee warning them not to use federal funds to facilitate illegal immigration. Of course, our denomination and certainly this congregation don't receive federal funds. So letters like this are, in my view, nothing more than fear-mongering and intimidation. I know many in the UVA community are feeling anxious and uncertain right now. That anxiety has certainly touched my family since both Carol and Carissa work at UVA. And there are many here at UUCville who have a long-standing connection to the university as faculty members, staff, students, alumni, and more. I want to invite anyone, whether you have a UVA connection or not, who needs a safe space to talk, to share your feelings, or simply to be with people who care about you, to join Reverend Leah and I at 12:30 back here in the sanctuary. And yes, you can bring coffee and popcorn and all that good stuff in here. Like many of you, I'm worried and afraid. I don't know what the future holds for my family, for institutions like UVA, for the city of Charlottesville, for our country, for this congregation. Clearly, we as a denomination and a faith community have much to talk about and even more to do. Right now, I confess I have a lot more questions than answers. And when I return from having a few Sundays off in July, I want us to convene more conversations about what we as a faith community can and must do to resist all the terrible things that are going on right now. For now, what I do know is that we as as Unitarian Universalists, we have got to keep love and compassion, justice and peace at the center of this church community. We've got to be courageous and bold, and yes, we've got to be willing to take risks. And we've also, this is so important, we've also got to take care of ourselves, to nurture and nourish our hearts, our minds, our bodies, and our spirits. That's what Lauren and I will be talking about for the rest of today's service. So I invite you to sit back, try to relax and breathe, and simply be present in this community that welcomes and loves you. So, okay. I felt like before we plunge on, we should sing Spirit of Life, what is undoubtedly the signature hymn in Unitarian Universalism. So it's hymn number 123. You can remain seated. The lyrics will also be on the screen. Spirit of Life.
We are an interconnected community that cares for one another. Part of how we embody this care is by making time each week to share joys and sorrows we hold in our hearts. I will now share what was submitted earlier this week. In honor of all our joys and sorrows, everyone is invited to come forward as you wish and place a glass stone in a communal bowl that holds of water as a symbolic act of each being held by the larger love that holds us all. All are welcome to participate, including those who are new to our congregation. Those online may type their joys or sorrows into the chat. We have 2 baskets holding glass stones, one at the back of the sanctuary and the other near the front pews. Please take a stone or stones from whichever basket is closest to you. When you have your stone, feel free to come down the center aisle or aisles and make your way to the bowl of water on the table at the front of the chancel. No need to form a line. Simply come forward as you are so moved. There's plenty of room for more than one person at a time to drop their stone in the bowl at the same time. Ellen Longmore from the pastoral care team will come forward to hold the space. Ellen will be available for a few minutes after the service in the back corner of the sanctuary if you are in need of support or just want someone to listen. Those online can contact the pastoral care team at pastoral@uucharlottesville.org. Let us begin. Our first reading is taken from the work of Gary Shockley. I am becoming more and more aware of the pace at which I live my life. Lately, I've especially noticed how I react during the workday when someone at my office interrupts me as I'm rushing from one meeting to another. As they begin to speak, I find myself standing there as if I'm listening when my mind is actually somewhere else. Sometimes I even have one foot pointing in the direction I intend to head next, ready to bolt at the first opportunity I find. How did I get this way? When did my life embrace drivenness as a virtue? Unfortunately, being driven from one task, one goal, one success to another defines modern life. Think about it. How often during your day are you driven to accomplish, driven to succeed, driven to perfection, driven to be in control, driven to please others? As I have gotten older, I have come to realize that life is far too stressful to be compounding it with the anxiety, the pressure, and the pain of drivenness. I am slowly finding a better way, what I call the meandering way. To meander is to take a widening course. Meandering is like taking a casual stroll on the beach, stopping to look for shells, smelling the misty fragrance of salt air. Meandering is like taking a leisurely walk through a forest and simply following the contours of a crooked, mossy path. Unlike drivenness, which means getting somewhere fast or accomplishing our goals the quickest way possible, meandering slows us down and helps us appreciate the here and now and where we are on our journeys, what we are experiencing, and who might be walking beside us. This community offers its love and support to what is closest to our hearts. Another way we show our care for one another is in sharing our financial gifts with our community and our congregation. Our social action collection for the month of June is for the Partners for Mental Health, whose mission is to connect persons with mental illness and/or substance abuse disorder to community support. In addition to giving online, if you would like to make a donation with cash or check, please use the Social Action Collection envelopes here in the sanctuary and place them in the collection plate. Please make checks out to UU Congregation of Charlottesville and write Social Action Collection in the memo line. We also invite you to generously support the ministries and mission of UUCville. Through your pledges and the weekly Sunday morning offering, together, our financial gifts support our congregation and enable us to put love into action. This is our shared ministry. During the music that follows, you can offer your financial support by using the text address or going to our website. You may place cash or checks in the collection plates as they are passed. Let us now dedicate all of the many gifts we share with one another by saying, "We accept your gifts with gratitude. May we use them wisely and for the highest good." Our second reading from Richard Gilbert is called The Shirk Ethic, which is written in the form of a somewhat lighthearted prayer. O God of work and leisure, teach me to shirk on occasion. Not only that I may work more efficiently, but also that I may enjoy life more abundantly. Enable me to understand that the earth magically continues spinning on its axis, even when I'm not tending the vineyards. Permit me to breathe more easily, knowing the destiny of the planet rests not alone on my shoulders. Deliver me from false prophets who urge me to repent and shirk no more. I pray for thy grace on me, thy faithful shirker.
Yes, indeed. Thy faithful shirker. It's not bad. It's not bad. I love that reading. I've been using it for years. You'll probably hear it again around this time around next year as well. So thank you, Lauren, for sharing those readings and for serving as our worship weaver today. This is Lauren's first Sunday as a weaver. Hoping that you will. Yes, there you go. Lauren's going to be joining the worship weaving team, so you'll see her up here from time to time. I'll also add that Lauren already has been playing a really important role in our Sunday morning services through her leadership, along with Patty Wallens, of the altar decorating team. In fact, that flower that many of you have asked about, that's Lauren's. So if you want to know more about what kind of flower it is, because I keep going, I don't know, you can ask Lauren after the service. So let me just begin this Sunday morning sermon with a confession. You see, whenever I preach about the importance of rest, being rather than doing, I often share this message on my last Sunday before taking some time off. Meaning, this is one of those sermons when I'm preaching as much, if not more, to myself as I am to all of you. I don't know about you, but too often my life gets taken over by the need to cross things off my to-do list, which never is fully crossed off, and by listening to that voice urging me to work harder and to shirk no more. And by the way, I just want to make it clear, that voice telling me to do more and to not shirk, that voice is not coming from any of you. It's not coming from the Board of Trustees, and it's certainly not coming from my buddy, Reverend Leah. Rather, that voice is my voice. The voice in my head telling me to keep going, push harder, and move rest and meandering to the bottom of my priority list. But, and I'm guessing this may be true for many of you, most of those things that I think are so urgent that they have to get done right now usually can wait long enough for me to, take a breath, maybe take a walk, and to just do nothing and rest. Now, I know it may feel strange to say that given what I said earlier about the state of the world, how can I, a person who benefits from enormous privilege and comfort, preach about my need for rest and renewal when so many in this world are being harmed? Well, I'm not sure that I have a good answer to that question, but one thing I do know is that a broken world will never be healed if people are exhausted and burned out. A few years ago, I read an article about the epidemic of exhaustion that pointed out how much the voices of hate and oppression depend on people being so tired and worn down that they become numb to all the hurtful and harmful things going on. I know there are days, and I've certainly heard this from plenty of you, there are days when I just can't listen to one more story on the news or think about how harsh and toxic the world is becoming. And this complacency and unwillingness to face reality is most common when I'm tired, emotionally drained, and even a little burned out. And that leads me to just one simple conclusion. It is only the rested heart and the nourished soul that can mend a broken world. It's only the rested heart and the nourished soul that can mend a broken heart. So let's talk for a minute about rest. And I want to begin by simply asking, why are so many so tired and burned out much of the time? Why do busyness and overwork so often take over our lives? Well, much of the answer, I think, stems from the culture, the society, the economy that we live in. A culture that puts a premium on not simply doing and working hard, but on always striving to do more. Economic necessity and a crumbling safety net are compelling too many to have to work 2, 3, even 4 jobs. In addition, our pull yourself up by your bootstraps culture celebrates those who put in the 18-hour workday and worked 60, 70, or even more hours during the week. And while advances in technology and communication have added convenience and connection to our lives, they make it harder to disconnect and decompress and to take time for calm and quiet. In some ways, I think we are so driven by the rush to do more and more that we barely notice how little time we take or are given simply for being rather than always doing. Our lives are often a blur and a race from one job, one task to the next. That is, of course, until we are subjected to so much physical and emotional strain that our health suffers and our families and relationships are negatively impacted. And even when we are forced to slow down long enough to heal, we often do so in the name of recharging. I've got to recharge and recover sufficient energy to throw ourselves back into the economy of long hours and a race that never ends. And I think something else happens to us when we are caught in that hamster wheel of doing more and more. I know when I find myself overtired, I'm no longer able to really listen, to express as I normally would the love and care I feel for others and the world around me, and to experience those things that bring peace and serenity to my life. Rather than taking time to listen to the birds sing on a beautiful spring or summer morning, or slowing down long enough to gaze at a magnificent night sky, I keep going and keep doing, barely noticing, barely aware of the simple blessings that make my life meaningful and my spirit whole. And that's why it's essential. It's so very important to follow a different ethic and a different path. What Richard Gilbert calls the shirk ethic and what Gary Shockley calls the meandering way. I must say, I love the word meandering. It's one of my favorite words. Even saying it somehow helps me slow down a little bit. Rather than being driven headlong from one task, one goal, one achievement to another, meandering allows, even compels one to slow down, to wander, to drift, simply to be. I want to take a moment now to show you a brief video of one of my favorite meandering places that I used to visit when I lived in New England. This is the Atlantic White Cedar Swamp Trail on Cape Cod. Now, I didn't record the footage you're about to see, but I have to say that it really reminded me of those times when I was privileged to meander along this trail. And Rachel and Nash, it's okay to play the volume on this. I originally told you to mute it, but go ahead and play it. I think it's nice. The person taking the video has a little commentary, but it's reasonable. So anyway, enjoy the next minute to 2 minutes of the Atlantic White Cedar Swamp Trail. Now, no video can do justice to what it's like to journey down that trail. Even though it begins very close to the ocean, not just a few steps away from the beach, after only a few minutes, you find yourself in what feels like an almost primordial forest of all kinds of plants, insects, birds, and other animals. But what I always have found most meaningful about this particular trail is that it makes me follow a path that is slow moving, winding, and indirect. A path that enables me to experience so much of what I miss when I'm racing from one task to another and in the grips of stress and anxiety. When I follow the meandering way, my life is transformed, at least for a time, and truly becomes about the beauty and blessings of the journey rather than about the countless destinations and goals I am always pursuing. And when I'm meandering, something wonderful begins to happen to my spirit. Did you notice in the video how many times the person recording it paused to look around, to become aware of their surroundings? That is what happens when we follow the meandering way. I become so much more aware, so much more at peace, and so much more grateful for the world around me. I feel, I experience, and I embody the beauty of life. And you know, as I've thought about those experiences and the experience of meandering, one word that always comes to mind, I want to just say a little bit about, is the word Sabbath. Now, I know Sabbath can conjure up images of church buildings, sacred texts, and long-winded sermons. But Sabbath is ultimately not about theology or sermons or sacred texts. It's not even about attending a service at a congregation or temple or mosque. Rather, Sabbath is ultimately about rest and spiritual nourishment. Sabbath is, as writer Wayne Muller defines it, a way of being in time where we remember who we are, remember what we know, and taste the gifts of eternity and spirit. It is this understanding of rest and Sabbath that I want to lift up and celebrate. Not rest simply as a way to recharge our battery so we can do even more and work even harder, but rest as a sacred act and a spiritual practice that enables us to appreciate the joys and blessings of life. Now, before closing, I want to just say a word about rest and Sabbath and our congregation, UCville. More than anything else, when you come through our doors or join us online, I want you to experience Sabbath and rest. In Unitarian Universalism, we are often busy with lots of programs and projects and meetings, and I'm sure those will increase given the brokenness in the world. But as we engage in all of our wonderful work and our ministries, we must always do that work from a place of Sabbath and rest. So let me just wrap up by saying, as you find yourselves once again in the world of work and doing, give yourselves some time to rest and meander. Take time for being and not just for doing. Even if you're in the middle of an incredibly busy day in which you're feeling overwhelmed and at your wit's end, remind yourself to take even the briefest of moments to breathe and to pause. For when we experience those moments of rest and Sabbath, we find ourselves in a place where we're simply present, where we can simply be, where we can meander, and where we can, as I've done when I walk that trail, where we can wander in the wonder of this magnificent world and this magnificent life that is our home. Amen, and blessed be. So I'd like to conclude now with our closing hymn, which you can remain seated for. This is a very short piece that you've heard many times before. It's not in the hymnal. This is going to be on the screen. The lyrics will be on the screen. It's Here Together Going Forth. Scott are you going to play along, Scott? You don't have to. It's up to you. If you want to rest and meander, that's fine. There you go. So go ahead, rest and meander, my friend. So we have a beautiful video here. The choir has been singing this, an arrangement of this as well. But of course, they're on vacation. They're meandering right now. So just sing along. It's a beautiful, beautiful piece.
And these
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Scott, for playing along. Lauren, would you please extinguish the chalice? I leave you this morning with these brief words from Elaine Gehrman. Journey softly. Speak truthfully. Love gently. Breathe deeply. Live wisely. Go in peace. Amen, friends. Have a wonderful July. I won't be seeing much of you. A reminder, we'll be gathering back here in about 30 minutes, just for anyone who would like to join us for just community and sharing and listening. So thank you so much. You are a blessed, wonderful, fabulous Unitarian Universalist congregation. I need my rest, but man, I'm going to miss you in July. I just want to say that. So anyway, amen, and go in peace.